So I get asked this question all the time, and it's what's the best martial art to win a street fight, or the best martial art for street fighting? It's an interesting topic, and there's so many ways you could look at it and so many different discussions. And normally what you find is people that are into that martial art, that do that martial art, they try and justify why that martial art is the best martial art for street fighting. So as a guy that did mixed martial arts and had to study all the different arts and use them in competition, I feel like I have a good, mentality of this or understanding of this to give my opinion. And I think most, again, depending on what you're looking at, but most street fights, when they happen, however they happen, it's not going to be a one-on-one situation. So you have to understand that at the beginning. We're not fighting with honor anymore, having one-on-one, closing a cage, and you're just going to find out who comes out best. So that's a different discussion, talking about competition and talking about, you using different techniques and skills and everything like that. And there's all these martial arts like Aikido and Krav Maga and all these different ones that people are going to say, oh, Krav Maga is great. The Israelis use this for combat. They're going to talk about all this crap. It's like a street fight normally erupts from an argument that, and again, I was a doorman, a bouncer, we call it in the UK, for like 5 years. So I've seen my fair amount of street fighting. I wouldn't say I've been involved in a lot of street fights, but I have seen a lot as a bouncer. So most street fights that I see in the rough streets of the UK, in Peterborough and London, in Essex, they always evolve around a group of guys getting drunk. Normally a woman's involved, and it can be a very explosive environment. So you need to have the awareness that comes along with all of these mixed martial arts, these martial arts that you learn. So maybe in Aikido, you learn about footwork patterns, or you learn about distance control, or you learn whatever. These things are very, very important when it comes to a street fight, to understand your environment. So learning a martial art, if you're learning it as self-defense, or if you're learning it to defend yourself, that's normally where most of self-defense comes in, is distance control. And making sure that you're not caught in situations like you shouldn't have your back up against the wall, for example. That's a terrible place to be. So you need to know to circle out. I do this exercise quite a lot when I do some like kickboxing or MMA training. I make people fight multiple opponents so they understand that it's more about where you're standing and where you situate yourself to get the killer blow than it is any other way. So I'm being around the bush a little bit, but trying to explain to you what's important. It's understanding awareness and where you should stand. So footwork is super important. So any martial art that includes a lot of footwork is going to be important. One of the ones that comes up a lot is like wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll tell you why they are not great martial arts for street fighting. And I can give you a story about being a doorman with my friend. And the reason they're not good is because most of them, or wrestling or judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, any of these martial arts, they include going to the ground. Okay, so throwing someone on the ground is not going to help you in a street fight, because then you normally have to go down with them. And what happened with a friend in a fight is he basically rugby tackled someone to the ground. So he was on top of a guy on the ground, winning the street fight, and his friend comes along and hits him on the back of the head with a champagne bottle and knocks him out. So my friend's dead in fighting terms, so that doesn't work, because again, you're fighting multiple people. So anytime you're grabbing hold of someone, or you're throwing someone, or you're on the ground with someone, you are at a disadvantage. You have to be aware of the 360 around you all time and move your feet. That's what's super, super important about street fighting. So if you're going to study any sort of martial art to learn how to fight, you need to focus 100% on footwork. Because footwork is what wins street fights. Because most people, the awareness and just being able to throw simple techniques and being able to move your feet is going to win you a street fight. And again, for the jiu-jitsu guys watching this that disagree with me, I believe having a solid blue belt, purple belt in jiu-jitsu is going to help you in situations, and wrestling and judo, that could turn into street fights. And what I'm trying to explain is, it depends how the street fight starts. If a street fight starts because I'm looking you in the eye and we're arguing and we're going to get into a fight, then wrestling, jiu-jitsu, I don't think it's a great thing to know, because we're looking at each other. But if someone jumps on my back or attacks me from behind or rugby tackles me or does something to me unexpected, then it's very vital and very useful to know how to wrestle, to know jiu-jitsu, to know judo. Because if some guy jumps on my back, I know how to escape these positions and throw people. And if I go to the ground, so as a defensive martial art, self-defense, I would say jiu-jitsu is actually probably your best bet as a self-defense mixed martial art in a street fight. As a defensive art, if you're getting attacked, then it's better to run away and know jiu-jitsu. If you are an offensive guy in a street fight, if you have been attacked, your girlfriend has been attacked, whatever, and you want to be an aggressive or an offensive guy, then jiu-jitsu and wrestling and judo are not going to help you. The thing that is going to help you is going to be a striking art. So competition-wise and fight-wise, knowing Thai boxing is probably the most devastating thing in the world. Elbowing people, kneeing people, kicking people, that's going to be very, very effective. But again, understanding range and that there's multiple opponents and all these sort of things. If I'm in a clinch with some guy and I'm trying to elbow him, that some guy attacks me from behind, again, I don't want that. I want something that's mobile, that's moving. And Thai boxers are very stationary. They're very slow. If you look at competition Thai boxing, it's very like face-to-face, one-on-one, kick, kick, kick. And if you're going to kick someone in the street and you're wearing like smart shoes and you're on concrete and you slip over, again, we're not in the gym, we're not on the mats, we're not in a competition. So Thai boxing, as lethal and dangerous as it is, and elbowing someone might help you in a short situation, I still don't think it's the best martial art to learn. For me, the best martial art to learn and to utilize in street fights is good old basic boxing. Knowing how to box, and what does everyone say when you go to a boxing gym? The first thing you need to focus on is footwork. You need to understand balance. You need to understand movement patterns. If you have good basic boxing, you are going to be able to strike fast with jabs or right hands, and you're going to be able to move your feet to get out of the situation and to get away. So if you're stuck up against the wall and three guys attack you, you're going to know, okay, so I'm in a street fight, I got 3v1, I don't want to get grabbed hold by anyone, I'm going to land a shot and I'm going to move. Not competitive boxing where you see them stand in front of each other. This is like 2v1, 3v1, 4v1, you want to hit and you want to be able to move. So speed in your hands, being able to box and being able to move your feet, that is the best way to win a street fight. And the best way to, again, avoid damage in a street fight. Because another thing that people don't realize, especially guys that train a lot, jiu-jitsu and all this sort of stuff, is it hurts. If you get hit with a plain elbow in the face and you're not prepared for a combat situation, or you get hit in the back of the head, or you get glassed, or you get bottled, it's super dangerous. So you don't want to be in these situations. You need to be avoiding them and trying to get away. If you're trying to avoid them and get away, the fastest thing to do is to punch someone and run, which is going to be boxing. So for me, best skill to learn if you're worried about getting in a street fight is boxing as a defensive martial art, self-defense. If you're worried about getting grabbed or being in close combat, is going to be jiu-jitsu as a defensive mixed martial art, because you're going to learn strangles, you're going to learn defenses, you're going to learn throws, you're going to learn all these sort of things that are going to give you a lot of power and strength in close combat situations. So boxing for me, number one, and jiu-jitsu is number one for the defensive mixed martial art that you want to learn. Best thing to do is learn them all, do mixed martial arts, and then you can apply them to different situations. But yeah, boxing for me, I hope that helps.